Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's Carolyn. Today I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know before you get a tarot deck. So if you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. Please subscribe. I would love to have you a part of this family. I post more educational videos like this, but I also post readings. I do pick-a-pie readings, past life readings, and galactic readings to help you wherever you're at on your spiritual journeys. So here's my advice on everything you need to know before you purchase your own tarot deck. So my first advice when picking out the right deck for you is to listen to your intuition, because the divination of tarot is one that's dependent upon an intuitive connection between the reader and the cards, because you have to interpret them. And if your intuition is not connected to a deck, then all you're going to be staring at is a bunch of cards. Your intuition is going to be blocked and you're not going to get accurate readings. So you want to make sure that this is a deck that feels right for you, that doesn't cause any blockages within you, and allows you to fully understand whether you get a tarot deck or an oracle deck, allows you to understand the meaning and the message of the card. And so if your intuition is not feeling a deck, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, it's not the right deck for you. Make sure that you are able to interpret it intuitively. It's great to use the guidebook, especially if you're new and you're learning, but the guidebook should not be the only thing that you use. You want to make sure that you're also able to have your own intuitive message that comes to you naturally with this deck. And so I would encourage you to do your research on your decks, to look up the artwork, make sure you understand and you like the symbolism in the card. Make sure that the guidebook is easy enough to work with, that if you do need to depend on it, it's going to make the card make more sense and not make you even more confused. And when you're doing your research, you should also look up the different type of tarot decks along with different oracle decks, because there's no right or wrong deck to start with. I know that a lot of people might have their preferred ones, but whatever feels right for you is the structure that you should follow. So oracle cards tend to have a little less structure. They vary based on the individual decks. And so because of that, it's all up to whoever the creator of the oracle deck is to decide what the meanings and the structure of the deck are. Whereas tarot's a lot more structured. There are different tarot systems that you can follow. The most popular one is the Rider-Waite-Smith. There is an intuitive connection to the cards, but that's based on this foundation of the cards and their specific meanings that you can study about. There's different books on them. And so it's not dependent on the person who made the deck for the meanings. It's more the system that the person who made the deck is depending upon. And so there's going to be symbolism in different tarot decks that carry over to one another, whereas an oracle deck, every single one of them can be different. And so by looking up the different types of decks, that's going to help you figure out what you want. So oracle decks are seen as a little bit of a softer, gentler approach because they're not as structured, they're not as difficult to understand, especially if you were someone where you're in sync with your intuition. It's a lot easier to learn from an oracle deck because the meanings are in the guidebook and it's only that one system to have to understand. Versus tarot, it can be a little overwhelming because there's so many different cards and there's so much history and structure behind the meanings. It can feel very difficult for people to memorize all those meanings and to learn them quickly. But if you're someone where you love structure and you love to learn different meanings and you love to look into the symbolism of things, tarot might be better suited for you. So it's really up to your own learning style and what you're looking for in the types of readings that you want to do. And if you are someone where you're drawn to a non-traditional deck, as long as your intuition resonates with it and you're able to learn it and understand that system, don't worry about not being able to understand the other systems. For me, I found that learning one system allowed me to use those same skills when learning another system. So I started with an oracle deck, then I went to Dreams of Gaia, which is kind of a cross between tarot and oracle. It's a little bit more structured and has a lot of cards like tarot, but the meanings are not the traditional tarot meanings. And so that's where it leans a little bit more towards an oracle deck. And I was able to learn that structure. And from there, I went to Rider-Waite-Smith decks. And it was very easy for me to adapt because I had built that sense of intuition with myself where I was able to understand the symbolism in the cards. And so whatever your intuition is drawing you towards, that's going to be the right deck for you in your own personal journey. So don't be afraid, even if it's not a deck that you think other people are using or a lot of people know about, because as long as it makes sense for you and you connect with it, your readings are going to be just as accurate. And so if your intuition isn't guiding you to a deck in particular, but you know that you want one, start researching, looking up reviews, looking up images online, seeing what artwork resonates for you. Don't go by whatever is the prettiest artwork to you, but go with what resonates. For me, when I first started, I wanted something that was mermaid related, and I wasn't really finding any tarot decks that I liked at the time that were mermaid themed. And so that's why I was drawn to get an oracle deck first, because that's what my intuition was drawn towards. So don't just pick whatever deck you see first. Go with what your intuition is drawing you towards. Because for me, I saw mermaid tarot decks, but they weren't resonating with me. Eventually, later on, I got them, but in the beginning of my journey, they were not what I needed. And so that oracle deck is what I was actually drawn to. When I saw it, I knew that that was the right one for me. And I got that. I did readings. That's how I practiced, and that's how I developed my intuition. And then from there, I was able to learn other systems. So really, your intuition is key. Don't stop looking at decks. Don't stop trying to find the right deck for you until your intuition confirms that it's the right one for you. But now I want to talk about those of you where you're not purchasing your own deck, but someone has gifted you a deck, whether they have passed it down from their own collection or whether someone knew that you were interested in tarot and they got you a deck. And let's say that it doesn't resonate for you. What do? I would first try with trying to connect with the deck and give it a chance. Start doing some readings with it and seeing if it's something where you're blocked because it's not the deck that you had wanted, or if it's something where your intuition really is not connected with it. Because if it's a deck that you don't resonate with, whether it's because of the images, whether it's because of the guidebook, whether it's because it's just not a deck that you're interested in, you're not going to be able to force it to make sense for you just because you want it to. It doesn't matter how much you try and force the connection, you're not going to be able to make it resonate for you if it doesn't. I personally had a deck that's a beautiful deck. Lots of people love it. The artwork is beautiful, but for some reason for me, I just could never get a clear reading from it. And I understood the guidebook when I would look at it and reference it. It made a lot of sense. I love the symbolism of the cards, but it just was something when I would actually go to read with it, it's like my mind would go blank. And that didn't happen with other decks. And so that was something I had to learn for myself. No matter how long I kept it for, it didn't matter how long I had the deck for or how good I developed my abilities to read tarot. It was just not a deck that was right for me. So I ended up passing that deck along to someone else who can better use it. And so if you're gifted a deck and it's not resonating for you, there's no shame in going back to the person and letting them know, asking them if they want it back. And if they do, that's great. You can give it to them and then you can find a deck that's better suited for you that you do resonate with. If not, there's always the possibility to sell it, or you could hold on to it until you're ready to give it away to someone else. Because just because it's not a good fit for you doesn't mean it's a bad deck. So now let's say you found the deck that's right for you, you researched it, it resonates with you, it's something you're really looking forward to, and then you get it and then you realize it's fake. So there's some things you can do to prevent this that you can look for when you're purchasing the deck to see if it's fake or real. So the first thing you can do if you're buying this online from someplace like Amazon, check the reviews. The reviews will oftentimes let you know if this is a real deck or if it is fake. A lot of times you'll see a lot of low-rated reviews. You'll see people posting pictures and images of the deck to show that it is fake. Or if it's a real deck, you'll see images of the cards with the guidebook looking how it should, and you'll see these positive reviews on it. So you really want to pay attention to what other people are saying to see if it's real or fake. Another way you can tell is typically the packaging is not the best quality. It comes in what other playing cards would come in, that sleeve type box. And oftentimes, instead of coming with a guidebook, it comes with a QR code that then takes you to the guidebook. Now, there are some indie decks or Kickstarter decks that do appear similarly. And so it's very important to be aware of what you are purchasing. If it is a Kickstarter deck and it doesn't have a lot of funds, then having a QR code, not having the best packaging isn't that weird. It's just very important to understand if it is an indie deck and if you can verify that through social media to make sure what you're purchasing is the correct link for it, versus if you were purchasing a mass-produced deck that is known to come with a guidebook, with better packaging, that's not just that sleeve type box, then that is when you are purchasing a fake because it's not what the standard product is meant to be delivered as. And so when you are researching the decks, you can also research the creators, and you can typically find them on social media, and that will direct you to the places that actually sell their decks instead of the fakes. And whenever you're purchasing from sites that can't necessarily verify if a product is real or fake, like Amazon or Wish, take some more caution with it, really do your research, and that's where checking reviews is going to be extremely important. And something else to keep in mind when you have the deck in front of you, besides the packaging looking different than it's meant to, the cards themselves will not be on the best card stock. They will typically be very thin, very flimsy. I find that when I have dealt with fake decks, they tend to leave more paper cuts because they are so thin, and sometimes they will even be a lot smaller in size. So pay a lot of attention to the dimensions of the cards and the card quality to tell if it's real or fake. If it feels very cheap, oftentimes that means that it is a fake. So now that you own the fake deck, what do? So the ideal solution when this happens is that you can return your deck and you can get your money back, apply that to the deck that you actually wanted to get, buying it from a verified site, and then being able to have the deck that you wanted. But that's not always possible to do. So if you can't return it, you're stuck with the deck. You can always throw it out, but I understand that's not always reasonable to do, especially if it is an expensive deck. You didn't know you were purchasing a fake, and so that's a lot of money to just throw out because the product you got is not what you were told that it was. So I encourage you to try your best not to purchase fakes, to do your research, and to learn from this moving forward. I don't encourage you to buy fakes because they might be slightly cheaper than the real products. But if you already have a fake deck, I don't see any harm in using it. Now, it's not going to be the best quality. It might give you paper cuts, and the guidebook itself might not always be accurate to the actual guidebook that the creator has made. But if you can overlook that and it's something that you already have and you're trying to make the best of the bad situation, there's no shame in using it. The card quality itself is not going to determine the accuracy of your readings. It's not going to interfere with your intuition. If your intuition is resonating with the artwork of the cards, that's not going to change. These fake decks have the same artwork, and so that connection is still going to be there. You're still going to be able to understand it. If a guidebook has not been provided to you, you might have to find some outside guidance to help you understand how to read and interpret the cards, but that intuitive link is still going to be there. The cards themselves are not sentient, and so by purchasing a fake deck, it's not going to make it where you're not able to interpret the cards. Now, I do think, and this is where listening to your intuition on what deck is right for you plays a factor, is that the different symbolisms of the deck provide different messages and therefore energy towards you. So that's why, like someone like me, where I have a lot of different decks, I have certain decks that I use when I want a gentle approach versus I want a more aggressive approach. There's decks that have a calm energy, there's decks that have a very intense and powerful energy, but that's not because of the cards themselves. That's how my intuition is interpreting the cards, because of the symbolism that they have or because of the words in the guidebook. And so that's something to keep note of, is it all is coming from your intuition. How you interpret the cards does not change because you find that the cards have been fake. And so basically, before you purchase a deck, there's two things you need to know. Listen to your intuition, let it guide you to the right deck, and do your research. Make sure that it is actually a deck that you want. Make sure it's a deck that resonates for you. Make sure it's not a fake. I definitely believe in supporting people in the spiritual community and the products that they're creating. And so I don't encourage anyone to purposely purchase fake decks. But if you have it, there's ways to work with it. There's ways that you can turn that situation around as best as you can. If you can return it, that's always what I would encourage you to do. This way, the person who sold the fake is not able to keep that money. But if it's not possible for you to do that, and you want to work with this deck, you want to make the best out of the situation, there's nothing wrong with using what you have. Eventually, later on, when you have more money, if you choose to get another deck, you'll know what to look out for so that you don't purchase a fake deck. And so take everything from this as a learning experience. And so before you get your tarot deck, definitely do your research. Try your best to not purchase a fake. If you do, try and pay attention to the signs so you know it's a fake, and you can try and figure out the best solution for you. And then make sure that you're listening to your intuition to purchase a deck that feels right for you, that you're going to be able to connect with, so that you are actually able to understand your readings and learn whatever structure you decide to go with. And so I hope that this advice really helped you out before you purchase your next deck. Let me know in the description box down below what your first deck was or what deck you're going to be purchasing. I would really appreciate if you could give this video a big thumbs up and share with others who are looking to get their first tarot deck as well. And if you like this video, I'm going to have other videos linked in the cards above for you to watch next. If you're wanting to learn the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot system, I have an entire playlist that I'll also have linked above where I teach you the tarot cards by connecting them with different pop culture, TV shows, songs, and movies. And so if you're interested in learning how to develop your own intuition, definitely subscribe. I would love to have you a part of this family, and I can't wait to see you all in my next video. I hope you have a good one. Until then, bye.